Hello, everybody. Welcome to No Sevens Dice Club College Football Predictions Week 3. Have a lot of stuff to uncover, but before I get started on the college predictions, I'm going to go ahead and try to do a Casino Biloxi update for you guys in the next couple of days. Might not be to the end of the week, but I'm going back to the scene of the crime where Delta arrived and almost took out No Sevens. I'm going to go ahead and try to do an update. Either a small update or a full-fledged update, just depends on how much time I have. And I can also give you an update on the August that I never got to publish. So let's go ahead and get into football and let's talk. Let's go over the 3 things that we learned from this from this past week. Pac-12 is for real. UCLA beat LSU. How UCLA will continue to do for the rest of the season remains to be seen, but they look like a pretty legitimate contender. And the Oregon and Ohio State game, I got to hand it to Oregon. They came in there, they played really well. Those corners played really well, just very aggressive. You got to realize that Oregon team that was not mentioned anywhere on the broadcast, but that Oregon team was playing against their time clock because they're used to playing at night. And they pretty much were playing on their body schedule, body time, around 7 o'clock in the morning. So for them to come in there and really knock it out, that's really impressive to play at an 11 o'clock game. Super impressive. Oregon looks like the real deal. UCLA, I'm telling you what, the Pac-12, they might be the Final Four piece that we're looking for that I was saying last week. Notre Dame, sorry guys, still dealing with COVID Delta over here, the remaining of it. Notre Dame, they're just overrated. I mean, if you look at, they struggled against Florida State. Florida State gets wiped out by Jacksonville. Notre Dame struggles against the game last week, and they're playing Purdue this week, and they're favored. Notre Dame is -7 against Purdue, and guys, I mean, I would not be surprised to see Purdue might take them out. I know when they come into the bigger competition, Notre Dame is really going to struggle, and I think they're going to lose some points, some ratings in that. The top 4 seems to be a death trap, and that's what I was mentioning. Ohio State goes down last week. Clemson went down in week 1, and it just seems like it's just a revolving door. Who's going to be the revolving door coming up? Who knows? You know, Alabama is playing Florida. I have Alabama to win and the bully picks to win outright. But like I said, they're going into the swamp. So this could be either way. So the top 4, you know, we're trying to lock in the top 4 this year, you know, like we always try to do, to figure out who's going to be at the end, trying to make some money on those top 4 picks. But man, it's a revolving door. So let's go ahead and talk about the first game. We have Georgia Tech at Clemson. As we know, Clemson lost to Georgia, and they really need to get some style points, and they really just need to dominate the ACC like nobody's business. Clemson is -28.5 in this game. I think, well, we all know Clemson's going to win. As you can tell, we have Clemson to win on the outright picks, on the bully picks. Clemson is -28.5. This might go a little bit further in the week, and it might go down. It might stay the same. But for the time being, Clemson is playing Georgia Tech. Every time they play Georgia Tech, it's usually a blowout. There's been a couple of times throughout the past few years where they kind of played them a little bit close as far as point spreads go, not as far as game points go. But I really do see this game. Georgia Tech's probably going to have about 14 points. Clemson's going to probably have about 50. I mean, they need to score 50 to 60 points every single game in the ACC to climb back into the Final Four. Now with Ohio State losing, that does open up a door for them, but not much of a door. It might just be like a small little centimeter of a door opening for Clemson. They really need to hammer these games out. So I'm going to pick Clemson. I'm going to take the -28.5 points, and go from there. All right, so we have Clemson minus 28.5. Real quick, jumping ahead of myself, a couple of things. Last week we finished 2-2 again, broke even, so we're 4-4 for the season. So no sevens is amping it up. If you notice, I got a lot more games that we're going to predict. And I had a lot of comments, and I watched the game last week, the Army game. Everybody was telling me that Army is back. Army's the real deal. So I put them on my bully picks. I don't like the point spread. Army had, I think it was minus 30 against the team that they were playing this week. I think it was against Connecticut. Don't like that. That's way too many points for anybody. I don't pick games over 30. For Clemson, it was a little bit of a push. I didn't even want to do Clemson, but I decided to because they needed the style points. So, but I do have Army down as my bully picks, along with Oklahoma, Alabama, Baylor, LSU, and Texas. And the last two is LSU and Texas. You're like, really no sevens? I mean, what are you thinking here? LSU needs to win. If not, Orgeron's getting fired. If Texas loses to Rice, Steve Sarkisian is getting fired. Speaking of fired, the USC head coach was just fired today on Monday, and he's out of a job to that Stanford loss. I think Stanford came in to play that game. That's the reason why I'm saying the Pac-12, they're a legitimate Final Four contender this year. I really do believe. So next up, I'm trying to keep it rolling here. Alabama and Florida. As we know, Alabama is just a machine. I mean, you can just stamp them every single year to be number one, number two, just a dominating team. Nick Saban, he has no drop-off. No matter how many players he loses to the draft, it's just, he just plugs in new ones. I have never seen in my lifetime a football team from college that can just stamp out products, just like how Nick Saban does. Whether you like that man or don't like that man, you just got to respect him for what he produces on and off the field as far as talent goes. Very respectable. And what he tells his players and how he builds his players from freshmen to seniors or to juniors. Very impressive. So let's go ahead and talk about Florida. As you know, they're going to be playing in the swamp. It's going to be intimidating. It's going to be loud. This is going to be Alabama's first true game that's going to be challenged. Dan Mullen, the head coach for Florida, played him when he was with Mississippi State. Gave them a lot of trouble. This is going to be a very close game as far as the point spread goes. And it's going to be a very interesting test for Florida to see how strong they have come and developed over the past season and everything else. They did lose a lot of talent, but it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out with them. I think Alabama is going to win this by 14 points. It's going to be a very, I won't say dominating, but I know that defensive line for Alabama is going to be imposing their will or trying to impose their will. The swamp is a very hard place to play. And if you ask anybody who's ever played there, it's a very intimidating factor. But I have a feeling Alabama's going to win this by at least 14 points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Alabama. I'm going to buy down 1.5. That's going to cost me a lot of money to buy down a point and a half to do that instead of half a point. So you're buying down. So that way, instead of 15.5, you're buying down minus 14. So that's going to cost me some money. So I got to throw some more money into this so that way I can get the proper payout. So that way when I'm doing the pay and everything else, it works out. But we're going to take Alabama, buy down that 1.5, and we're going to go from there. And let's see if Alabama can keep it up, or they're going to be the next victim who falls down and goes from, leaves the top four. I don't see it though, but I do like this game a lot. So we're going to take Alabama minus 14. All right, we're going to stay in the SEC, and we're going to talk about LSU. And we're not going to talk about week one. We're going to talk about, they're playing Central Michigan. Central Michigan this year has got a pretty legitimate team. If you've been watching a little bit of how they've been playing up there, LSU's played them throughout the years a couple of times. This is, I think, their second time that they played them in 3 or 4 years. They usually do really well. LSU's defense is starting to look legitimate. They played really well against McNeese. I know McNeese is nowhere near the competition UCLA was, but if you watched that game against McNeese, you watched that they were living in the backfield. Cody Ogeron was McNeese's starting quarterback, who was Ed Ogeron's son, and it's only the second time in college football history that you had a quarterback's son's coach on an opposing team. The only other time was, I think it was John Elway and Steve Elway was the only other time. And that was back in the early 80s. But anyway, so that's just an interesting factoid for you guys. But LSU's defense is tackling really well. They're understanding that defense more and more. And from what I was talking to some of the people of LSU, is that they're running a pro-style NFL defense. It's the reason why they're having a hard time understanding the plays and stuff. But it doesn't limit the excuse of poor tackling in the UCLA game and what we're seeing. So they've really turned that over. The question that remains is LSU's offense. Their quarterback situation is pretty dire. And I'm not sure if Miles Brennan is going to be coming back anytime soon. But Max Johnson is not looking like a starting quarterback. His decisions, his throws, his feet are not set. His hips are not right when he delivers the football. It's very questionable. The offensive line needs a lot of work. But for Central Michigan, I do like LSU in this. I think it's going to be like the McNeese game. LSU's defense is going to dominate. And they're going to hold Central Michigan probably to 10 points. LSU should score about 35 to 40 points in this game. It's going to be kind of just like the McNeese game. So I'm going to pick LSU minus 19 and go from there. Next up is the Rice at Texas game. If you saw the Texas-Arkansas game, that was an old SWC conference game. And there's still bad blood between those two teams. There's no love lost between those two, Texas and Arkansas game. I was going to pick Arkansas to win that game, but I really wasn't sure. And I was only going to say that they're probably going to win by a point or two, or maybe 3. But Arkansas came out and handled business. So you got to really hand it off to Arkansas and the head coach over there. He's really turning around that program. Steve Sarkisian, his seat just started getting a lot warmer over at Texas. So he's got a lot to prove. Houston played Rice. Houston destroyed Rice in that game. That was one of the games that we picked last week. We picked Houston to win that game, and we did. And I think Texas is minus 26. I'm surprised this game is not minus 35, because Texas is going to come out. They're going to play pissed off, and they're going to want to kill somebody in this Rice game. So, and especially with Steve Sarkisian's seat getting really warm, I'm expecting, Texas to blow this out. I'm expecting about a 45 points for Texas, maybe about 7 or 10 for Rice, if they're lucky. And that'll be in garbage time at the end of the fourth quarter. So look for Texas to not only win in the bully picks for the outright win, but for Texas to cover that minus 26 points. And if you notice, I have a 5th game because I'm tired of going 2-2. So something's going to happen this week. All right. So one other thing I was going to say about the Texas game is Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC. You guys probably already know this, but they're heading to the SEC in 2 or 3 years from now. So Texas, welcome to the SEC. Happens every week. You got to come prepared. There's no off week when you're playing an SEC team, no matter who it is, whether it's Arkansas, Missouri, Alabama, Texas A&M. You got to bring your A game every single week. Speaking of the SEC, we're looking at Auburn at Penn State. This is a very interesting game. Penn State has a great tradition. They're expected to beat Ohio State in some circles around the water cooler, from what I heard this year. Penn State's always got a really good football team. They're always just a grinding team. If you ever watch them, they're just kind of your blue-collar pack your lunch pail, you know, just get aggressive. There's nothing flashy about them. They're just tough. They're mean. They just like to be just that grinder team that you expect so much from them. You know, just watch them every single time. They just like to grind and just punish you and just beat you up emotionally pretty much. You know, they're just that group of people. But if you look at Auburn, the past 2 weeks, they haven't really played anybody, but they've been scoring so many points. So this is going to be a really true test to see if Auburn's offense can match up with Penn State. Penn State's been doing pretty well this year. And if you look at their past, I'm trying to pull it up while I'm talking. Hold on one second. I'm trying to pull up their schedule, and for whatever crazy reason, Penn State does not like to provide their roster for whatever reason. I don't know. Anyway, so okay, finally, I found their roster. So they played Wisconsin, and if you remember that was a really good game the first week. They won 16-10, just like I said, just dominating. And then they played Ball State 44-13. Now they're playing the SEC. They're playing at home. Penn State is playing at home, and Auburn has done a good job. They've won. Of course, their schedule has fallen off, but they've won their past 2 games by 60 points. They scored 60 points in both games. So they're doing really well also. I mean, 60-10, 62-0. Of course, one was against Acorn and the other one was against Alabama State. I really do believe that this is going to be, the picking -6 is really good. I think Auburn has always been a dark horse and in the SEC, and Penn State, I think it's going to be more like the Penn State Wisconsin game more than anything else. I think it's just going to be whoever has the football last is going to win. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how both defenses play each other, because they're both just, you know, that blue collar type. And I know I'm coming up on my time, 17 minutes, so I got to make a prediction. I really do like Auburn in this, so I'm going to take Auburn +6 in my dark horse pick. And if you notice, I got 5 games, so that way we're not going to finish 2-2. We're either going to finish +1 or -1. So let's go ahead and take Auburn +6. Alrighty guys, I'm running a little bit over on my time. I apologize. I like to keep it under 15 minutes. So let's look at our bully picks. Clemson, Oklahoma, Army, Alabama, Baylor, LSU, and Texas are going to be our straight upright wins, who are just going to win the game outright, no point spreads. That way we can pick these teams, make a quick $5-10, pay for the gas to go to the casino to make our bets. We're going to take in Clemson -28.5, Bama -14. We're going to buy down that 1.5. We're going to take LSU -19. We're going to take Texas -26. And then for my dark horse pick, we're picking Auburn +6. Those are my predictions for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know on your comments. I like hearing from you guys on who do you think you like, and who do you think we should bet on this week too, and go from there. Like I said, we're a big, huge community, so whatever you guys think, please share and let me know, and I'll comment when I get a chance. But thank you guys so much, and good luck on Saturday. Good luck to your teams, and thank you for watching. And No Sevens, we'll talk to you next week.